Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and finally I have seen Hannibal Season 3, Episode 5, Contorno, and thank God that I finally watched it. I'm sorry it took me so long to finally watch this episode. I really don't know why, it just took me a while, but holy shit, this is by far the best episode of the season. I know I said last week's was, but this definitely was, because the first 4 episodes I kind of think is, like, the prologue to this season, and this is the actual, like, this is where things start happening, basically. And, that's awesome that finally stuff is happening, and it wasn't, the first 4 episodes were great, really they were. I mean, they had to catch us up on what happened, but I like how slow-paced it was, because now, finally, it's going to be really satisfying. We understand why characters are doing what they're doing, and now that we know pretty much everything we need to know, now the plot can finally move forward, and I love that this episode did that. I thought it was great, and this episode was everything I wanted, it really was. So let's just get into it. There's a lot to talk about. A lot actually happened in this episode. I mean, so much has changed from the first 4 episodes to now this episode, and I really don't know what's going to happen in the next episode. Honestly, I don't. This episode ends so crazy that I don't know what's going to happen, and I really want to get into that, so let's just talk about it. So we start with Chiyoh, and I like seeing Chiyoh again, because we started in the 3rd episode, and then we didn't see her in the 4th episode. I like seeing the interactions between Will and Chiyoh, I really do. She talks about playing this game with Hannibal, and she says he would burn bark and incense for her to identify by scent alone, and she says he was charming the way a cub is charming until it grows up to be a big cat. I mean, I kind of see your point. If you look at Hannibal, he doesn't look like, he looks pretty menacing, but he can be really charming at times as well, and that's what's very strange. So, but then he has that ego, and, when that ego comes out, it just goes off and he kills people, so Will says one you can't play with later. They ride this train, and Chiyoh says the day she met him, he was an orphan. And this I thought was really interesting, because, I mean, we wanted to know the connection between Chiyoh and Hannibal, and we find this out here. Basically, she talks about how the day she met him, he was an orphan, and she meant to meet him with his sister, but he was alone, and Will asks how, and Chiyoh says she was his aunt's attendant, and her parents sent her to learn from Lady Murasaki when she was a girl, and she says she learned from Hannibal too. So Will says he comes in the guise of a mentor, but distress excites him. She says she's not in distress, and Will says not anymore. He says she had a strict rule about taking life and broke it. He asks if it's on her mind, and if she sees herself killing that man over and over, and she says no, and she says she sees Will. She asks how he knows Hannibal's in Florence, and he says Botticelli. She says she's never been to Italy and never really expected to go there, so she says birds eat thousands of snails every day, and many survive digestion. She says they emerge to find they travel the world, and Will says in the belly of the beast. And we then see snails on that dead man. Remember that guy that Will left strung up there? I don't know why we're seeing him, but something tells me that something's going to happen with that guy, because we're not just going to see him to see him. Definitely something's going to happen with that. So fireflies soar around him, and Hannibal then tells Bedelia he used to keep Kochlier gardens to attract fireflies. He says they are fuel for the delicate creatures. He offers her a bite of food, then pours her a drink. He strokes her neck and says, better to live true to yourself for an instant. And she says she likes Will. She says, like Will does. And he says, Will apologizes over inevitable change, and she says anything can be trained to ignore its instinct, and she says that shepherd dogs don't attack the sheep, and Hannibal says that it wants to, and he says Will reach that state soon, and in many ways, these two are very similar. I mean, they both have these egos, and they both are just taking time bombs, and Bedelia says that Will is on the way to kill him, while he lies in wait to kill Will. I think she's just trying to show how similar these two are, and she's trying to say, look, there's a way that you can make up without killing each other, which I think is really interesting that she says that. I mean, of course, Bedelia was a therapist. She still knows how to deal with this sort of thing, and she knows what he's going through because, I mean, she's a therapist. She knows, what's going on. So I think in this moment, she's just trying to stop him from making a really bad decision because, I mean, he kills Will, he's probably going to regret it, honestly. If he kills Will, he's probably going to regret it, and that I thought was really interesting. So Jack looks over a view of the city, then takes a walk with Bella's urn. It's this really sweet scene. He kisses it and basically says goodbye to her, dumps it into the water below the bridge, pulls off his wedding ring, throws as great a distance as he can, and basically just starting over. He's not married anymore. You can tell this was a very hard thing for him to do, but he knows that he had to do this. Honestly, he had to make this choice. He knew what he had to do, and I like that Jack did that. That was a very good thing for Jack to do, and I think, honestly, that was the closure he needed, so that was definitely really good. So Jack is with Posse and his wife, and I like seeing Jack actually have someone to talk to, which I thought was really good. And I like this bonding between the three of them. She asks him about being without a wedding ring and if he's divorced, and he says Bella recently died and he met her there. They toast to Bella, and Posse says he looks at his wife and thinks about all he wants to give her, and he says he's not happy with his current position, says he runs errands for people who were his subordinates, and Jack says Posse wasn't in Palermo on official business, and they don't know he's investigating Hannibal. So he says he will tell them when he's sure, and Jack says he played the game outside the law and then lost, and his wife serves dinner. They lighten the conversation. They start talking about, like, food and things like that. But I honestly really enjoyed that scene. I thought that was really well done, and I like seeing Jack have someone to talk to. So, Alana, of course, then we get to probably, like, my favorite plot going on right now. I love this plot with Alana. She brings Mason the table setting from Hannibal's house, and she tells him about the plates from Tiffany and the silver, and she describes the table linen, and Mason says the man has the most marvelous taste, and Alana says she discovered a pattern of purchases like he had in Baltimore, and he says Hannibal liked her taste too, and says he must taste sweet. He goes on to say some more really disgusting things, and Alana says the first step in developing taste is to credit your own opinion, and she shows him a mushroom, and she says in matters of food and wine, she follows Hannibal's taste, and she tells him about the wine, and, Tartuffe Benassi that she found, and she says it's once a week for the last 3 months, says a blonde woman has been making the exact same purchase and always pays cash, and what she doesn't realize is that that's not just some blonde woman, that's Bedelia, and Alana says she's shopping for Hannibal, and that is Bedelia. She doesn't realize that she's talking about Bedelia, and Mason tells Alana brava, and I thought that was really good that, Alana is definitely starting to find out things. She's definitely going to start to find out that, Bedelia is working with Hannibal, definitely. So Will lies in his berth on the train, and Chiyoh comes in and sits on the bunk below him. She lies down, then asks if they're obligated to talk, and he says no. She says she's not used to hearing voices outside her head, and he says he hears them from all directions. So you can definitely see that she goes through the same thing that Will does, and he asks if she looked at the shape of things and what she was becoming, and Chiyoh says she wasn't becoming anything. She was standing still exactly where he left her standing, like taxidermy. And Will says hollowed out and filled with something else. She says not something else, and says she's not as malleable as he is. She says she's violent when it's the right thing, but says he likes it. And Will says he and Hannibal gave each other an experience they might not have had otherwise. And she says he's afraid if he doesn't kill Hannibal, he'll become him. And I kind of agree with what she's saying, that in many ways, as I said, Hannibal and Will are very similar. He might become Hannibal, and that would honestly be a really good twist this season, if they end the season with him becoming Hannibal. However, I don't know if, end the show, because I'm pretty sure the show's ending. I mean, Brian Fuller said that they are released from their contracts, so I'm assuming the show's over. Because if Hannibal and Will aren't on it, then we have Alana, Jack, and Bedelia, and, Chiyoh. What are we going to focus on? Seriously. Are we going to make the show Alana or Mason? I don't know. That's really interesting. But we'll have to see what happens there. I guess we'll have to see if they end it with Will becoming Hannibal. That could honestly be a pretty good ending. It would be really, depressing and dark, but it honestly, I think, would work well for the show. She says there are means of influence other than violence, and Hannibal's at work when Posse shows up, and he asks if he's ever met his predecessor, and Hannibal says he never met him but reads his work. Now, this scene was so intense. I did not know what was going to happen here, because we know that Posse is investigating Hannibal. I didn't know, what Hannibal was going to do to Posse, and, this scene was just crazy. Honestly, it was awesome. And this is when the episode just got amazing for me, because Hannibal says he never met him but read his works, and Posse walks closer and says they looked for a note related to the man's disappearance and found nothing. Then he asks about Sagelato and says no one has talked to him since he declined his dinner invitation. Of course, Sagelato is, the person that Hannibal killed in the first episode. So Posse says both were schoolers and bachelors with ordinary lives. He walks away, then Hannibal asks if he's Posse to the Posse and says he resembles a figure from his family's famed chapel. And Hannibal mentions Francisco Posse, who attempted to kill a pope at Mass, and he says they were all brought low that Sunday. He asks about Hannibal, going by the name fell to let him know if he turns up anything related to the man who disappeared. Now, I don't know if Posse realizes this is Hannibal or not. I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure he did. I think Posse was just being smart in this situation. I'm pretty sure he knew this was Hannibal. I'm not sure, though. Well, I'm honestly not sure. He hands him his card, then leaves, and Hannibal stares after him, and Posse then goes back to his office and finds the manhunt notice on Hannibal. He then makes this phone call outside at a payphone, and he says he has information about Hannibal Lecter and asks about the reward. And we find out that it's Mason's people he reaches. So yes, he is working for Mason. It seems like everybody's working for Mason this season. It's pretty awesome, but, pretty much everyone's working for Mason. I forgot to say, they changed the actor who plays Mason, from Season 2. The guy that's playing Mason is doing a great job in just keeping that creepy essence. He's doing a great job, honestly. He asks if he can be paid even if he wouldn't usually be eligible, and he asks if Posse's calling from Europe. He tells him to call an attorney in, Geneva to discuss the legality of a bounty, and says to be very specific when he calls, and Posse jots down the number. Hamilton plays piano and thinks about sketching in the museum, and Bedelia then comes in and says he prefers the harpsichord, saying it's more alive, while the piano sounds more like a memory. And she asks if he's met Posse before, and he says in his youth. He says they had a fondness for Botticelli and crossed paths in the Euphis Gallery. She asks if he knows what Hannibal is, and he says he could tell there was an epiphany there. She says yet he's free to tell her about it, and he says Posse will wait to flush his quarry, and he knows this guy's on him. Like, Hannibal can tell, okay, he's on to me, I gotta do something here. So Bedelia says someone has put a price on his head, and he says a bounty works better than radar because it encourages more people to come after him privately. And she asks if Posse will join Sajallar, will he commit suicide, and he says the man is a chief inspector and has to decide what his honor is worth, and she asks what it's worth to be the man who caught Hannibal Lecter, and he says that has a short life, and he would be better served to sell him, and you really don't know if Hannibal's going to kill this guy or not. This I thought was really interesting. I'm like, okay, is he going to kill him? Is he not? I really didn't know here. So Will then wakes up to find, this was really strange. I don't know what happened here. He finds blood dripping on him, and then he sees Chiyoh above, bleeding and dead, but then he realizes this is a dream. He actually wakes, and she's gone from her bunk. He hops down from his and goes looking for her. And he finds her at the back of the train, and I was very happy they didn't kill Chiyoh. I'm like, no, don't kill Chiyoh. I was very happy that was just a dream, because if they would have killed her off, that would have been really bad, and Hannibal's like the show that kills off nobody, so I like that they did that. So he finds her back of the train, well, like the main characters at least. Like, we thought all these characters are dead and they're not, so you know what I mean. He finds her at the back of the train, standing outside in the wind, looking at the night. She says she likes the night, and says it's another place and is different from where they are during the day. And he says they're most hidden at night, and she says life is like most like a dream then. He asks why she's searching for Hannibal and asks what she hopes to find, which is a good question. I mean, if she doesn't want him going after Hannibal, why is she searching for Hannibal? And she says she's not searching for Hannibal. She knows exactly where he is. He asks if he's in Florence, and she says yes, and he asks why didn't she tell him, and she says she told him there are means of influence other than violence, and she steps closer and kisses him, and she says, but violence is what he understands, and I like that she said that. I honestly do agree with what she says, because he just wants to do things with violence. You can tell that she does not want to kill Hannibal. She just can't bring herself to do that. And she steps closer and kisses him. And she says, and basically, Will then goes flying backwards. She shoves him off the back of the train. He goes flying backwards, flips and lands hard in the middle of the tracks, but missed the metal rails. He comes to and sees his favorite imaginary antler walking down the tracks toward Venice. He staggers to his feet, bleeding from his head, and follows it. And I don't know if we're going to see Chiyoh again. I'm pretty sure she's going the exact same place Will is, but she definitely is not working for Will. I definitely feel like she is on Hannibal's side, and she's going to do, like, when she meets Hannibal, I definitely feel like she's going to work for Hannibal. So Chiyoh, not to be trusted, definitely not to be trusted, and I like seeing that. So basically, Posse then has this video call with Mason. He thanks him for reaching out. He says, without a concerned citizen like him, monsters like Hannibal will run wild. And this whole scene, I didn't know what was going to happen in this scene, because I didn't know if, like, Hannibal was going to find him, what was going to happen here. And Mason says $3 million for Hannibal alive and $100K advance with a fingerprint to verify it's Hannibal. Because again, they don't know if it's Hannibal or not, because they haven't, he hasn't seen him. So he says it must be fresh and unlifted on an object for his experts to verify independently. And Mason says he doesn't want to spook him, and Alana pokes her head in and asks if he's okay with Hannibal being tortured and killed. And he says he is, then says he just wants Hannibal out of Florence, and Mason says he will be and ends the call, and basically that's what they plan to do. So the only people that don't end up in Florence in this episode are Alana and Mason. They're definitely going there, but they don't go there in this episode. They're definitely heading there, though. That's definitely, where they're headed. So Alana tells Mason that Hannibal will kill Posse, and Mason smirks at best he can with his ruined face, and I thought that was kind of funny that he did that, because, this is what Mason wants. He wants Hannibal, to be... he wants someone to get revenge on Hannibal for what he did, and I think that was really good that he's doing that. So, I like that Mason's kind of using Posse and not himself to go after Hannibal, because he's really smart in that. I think that was definitely a very smart decision. So Posse goes looking for Hannibal at work. Hannibal has just turned on a record, and he asks why Posse is back so soon. Hannibal then cuts Hannibal with his knife, and Posse says he brought something he might like to see based on his current exhibition, and he pulls out a torture mask and says Fernando Paso was rumored to have worn it. It's a skull, it's brittle, and Hannibal asks if he can examine it and pick up carefully. And again, this scene was so intense. I didn't know what Hannibal was going to do here. He said it's amazing, and Hannibal shows him this carving and said it's a family heirloom of the Posse's. It's a wood carving of Francesco, his ancestor, with his bowels hanging out. And when Hannibal's back is turned, Posse tries to pocket something he was touching at his fingerprint. Hannibal says Fernando was led astray by 30 pieces of silver. He points out and says it's where the archbishop bit him as he choked. And Hannibal then says he's been giving thought to doing the same. He comes behind Posse, slips a cloth over his face. He knows he is on him, and he is not going to let Posse arrest him, because he knows that definitely Posse does not mean to work with him. He definitely is going after him, and he's not going to let anyone catch him. So he slips this cloth over his face, and I did not know what was going to happen in that scene. So Jack then sits with Posse's wife. She's worried and says he should have been home by now. She asks what he's done, and Hannibal wakes Posse and says to take a deep breath while he can to clear his head, and he has him trussed to a handcart. And Hannibal says he hasn't had a bite all day and says his liver and kidneys would be suitable for dinner tonight. And I honestly thought he was just going to eat, like, Posse in the scene. That's what I thought he was going to do. But the rest of the meat should hang a week in cool conditions. He asks if he saw the forecast, and Hannibal makes a noose and tells Posse he can leave without his meal if he tells him what he wants to know. He tells him he can trust him. He says the police didn't come. He knew he had sold him, then asks if it's Mason, and Posse nods. He now knows he's working with Mason, and Hannibal says he called the number on Mason's site once from a phone far away. Now, I can understand if someone's like, oh, Posse could have been smarter, but I think with Posse, like, he didn't care, like, about who he was working with. In that moment, he just wanted to get free. He wanted to do whatever he could to get free and just answer the questions that Hannibal wanted. Because he didn't know what Hannibal was going to do, if he was going to kill him regardless. I mean, he really didn't know what was going to happen to him. So he asks if Posse told anyone at the police, and Posse's phone rings, and it's Alana. Hannibal answers and says hello to her, and he says Posse can't talk, and says it's nice to hear her voice. He tucks the phone back in Posse's pocket, and you see this look on Alana's face. She knows that things aren't going right. He asks him, bowels in or out. Hannibal says out, runs a knife down his abdomen. He kicks Posse out the window. The noose yanks him to a stop, and his bowels go streaming out just like his ancestors, and Posse's dead. So yeah, Posse's dead, and that's really interesting because Posse, of course, was supposed to be the Red Dragon, but now Posse's dead, so I thought that was really interesting that they did that. However, that's not how the episode ends, because then this episode just gets insane. This, I thought, was amazing. Jack is there, and he and Hannibal see each other, and Jack knew that something was going wrong. So Jack's in there, he comes running inside, Hannibal greets him and asks if he got his note. Hannibal says he's sorry about Bella, and says night and day must have been the same for her in the end, and he actually did write him that note, which I thought was interesting. I wasn't sure if he did or not. And he says she must not have been able to move or speak, then asks if Jack spoke for her, and he has a knife and looks around for him, then turns on the record, hang on one second, guys. Basically, he turns on the record, and, after he does this is when the episode just goes crazy. He asks what medication he gave her in the end, and if it was too much or just enough. Jack then grabs him, throws him through a display case, kicks him through another. Hannibal struggles to get up, and Jack punches him in the face, then picks up a torture instrument, stabs Hannibal in the leg, kicks him in the gut as many times as he can. I mean, he is just getting full-fledged revenge on Hannibal. It really reminds you of that awesome scene in Season 2 when they were just beating the shit out of each other. It's an awesome scene. He pulls Hannibal up, throws him again, and Hannibal yanks the hook out of his neck, and Jack bashes him into something else. Hannibal says he brought Bella back from death, then asks if that's where Jack is taking him. Jack beats him some more, then puts him through another glass case, and the abuse continues. He's beating Hannibal brutally. He tries to crawl away. Jack goes back for the hook impalement. Hannibal crawls to a bench and sits by the window. He asks Jack how he'll feel when he's gone. Jack watched closer, and he says he's gonna feel alive. He hits Hannibal with the hook. He tumbles out the window, catches himself on Posse's body. He drops himself to the courtyard, takes a hard fall, and there's no beating this guy. He just stands and staggers away. So, no, he's not dead yet, and Jack goes running after him, and the way this scene was done, like, the score was just awesome here. The record hits the end, rubs against the needle, and that is how the episode ends. What an incredible episode, guys. Honestly, guys, that is how you write a quality episode of Hannibal. I couldn't have asked for a better episode. There's so much to talk about now. Seriously, this episode was just amazing. Honestly, it was. There's so much to talk about. Let's first talk about Hannibal and Jack. What is going to happen here? Because now Jack is going after Hannibal. I'm pretty sure Bedelia is no longer going to live with Hannibal. I mean, obviously, Alana's getting hints that Bedelia is working for Hannibal. But now, Bedelia is going to be in the apartment. She's going to come up to, like, where they're living and find that he's gone. So what is Bedelia really going to do here? I really don't know. Is she going to just leave Hannibal? Is she going to go to Will? I'm not really sure what's going to happen here. But Jack and Hannibal, I cannot wait to see where this leads them. I mean, obviously, they were in a fight, and they're still in the middle of it. I'm pretty sure when they come up to each other, they're just going to continue fighting. It's going to be awesome to watch, and I can't wait for it. But we'll have to see what ends up happening there. Will, obviously, Chiyoh is not to be trusted. You can't trust her. I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen between Will and Chiyoh. Chiyoh, I definitely feel, is working for Hannibal and not for Will. I also feel like it's kind of like what Bedelia is doing for Hannibal, where she's trying to show him that there are other ways for them to make up without violence. I honestly feel like maybe they're going to make up in a way that's not violent. Maybe there will be. I'm not really sure. With Posse dead, Mason is definitely going to go after Hannibal, because Posse, of course, was working for him. He was also working for Jack, but he's working for Mason as well. So Mason is definitely coming after Hannibal, and I can't wait to see where that goes. Do they know where he is? I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't know if Posse told them exactly if he was in Florence. I think he did, but we'll have to see what happens there. Alana definitely is getting hints. I definitely feel like she's going to find out that Bedelia is the blonde woman that's working for Hannibal, because she does know that there's someone working with Hannibal. She just doesn't really know too much about it yet, but I definitely feel like she's going to find out more, which I'm definitely looking forward to. This whole thing with Will turning into Hannibal, do you think this is possible? Do you think Will grow as deadly as Hannibal? I think definitely what Chiyoh said is possible. I think that definitely can happen. Do I think Chiyoh's bad? No, I think she just isn't gonna help Will. She's not gonna help Will kill Hannibal. She can never bring herself to it, and she's not gonna let it happen. So she's gonna stop him, whatever it takes, pretty much. And I think she's just trying to show him that. I mean, if Will kills Hannibal, what does he have to live for? Really, he has nothing if he kills Hannibal. So we'll have to see what's happening there. That's going to be very interesting, definitely. I can't wait to see what happens with that. And then as far as, I guess my only other question is, what's going to happen with Posse's wife? Because obviously Posse's wife knows there was something wrong. So is she going to come to Florence? I mean, I'm pretty sure every single character in the show is just going to go to Florence, honestly. It seems like at this point that's what's going to happen. The only character we didn't see in this episode was Chilton. Chilton, I'm pretty sure, is still working with Mason and Alana. So definitely, I think the three of them are going to find out what's really going on with Hannibal and where he is, find his location. That definitely is going to happen, but we'll have to see what ends up happening with that whole situation. But what an incredible episode, guys. Absolutely loved it. By far the best episode of the season. I can't wait for next week's episode. It's going to be amazing. That's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. By far, just absolutely loved the hell out of this episode. Honestly, it was amazing. Also, why do they keep showing that dead guy that Will killed? Is that trying to show that maybe Will's going to become a killer? I'm not really sure. I kind of feel like that's what they're showing there, that maybe Will's going to become this killer, but we'll have to see what ends up happening there. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for the series premiere of Sense8, because I am going to watch Sense8, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.